Good morning, everyone. Just before we begin, to ensure that everyone can hear me, would you mind to give me a thumbs up or let me know in the chat? Let's see. Okay, I got a few thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Well, we will go ahead and get started. Good morning again. My name is Shanna Weber, and I am an environmental education assistant with the Environmental Assistance Branch of the Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection. We want to thank you for joining us this morning as we take some time to do an overview of some of Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet's online tools. If you did join us a few weeks ago and we had some technical difficulties, welcome back. We are glad that you were able to join us again, and we apologize for those difficulties. But hopefully we are all past that and ready to learn a little bit today. Today, we are actually going to focus on two of our most popular online tools. So we are going to cover EEC eForms and EEC eSearch. I do want to let you know that today's webinar will be very surface level. It's going to be a walkthrough of these different tools. We're going to be sharing with you how to navigate the tools as well as some of the features of each of those tools. But we are not going to go into great depth on submitting specific forms or doing other specific activities. So first things first, if you have never used GoToWebinar before and you're here with us, and hopefully you can hear me, I think I got some thumbs up, you should be pretty much all set. Everyone besides our presenters are going to be on listen only mode, so you will not have access to the microphone or the camera. If you do have any questions at all throughout the webinar, we do ask that you use our chat feature or the questions feature, and we will try to get to your questions throughout the webinar. With that being said, I do also want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and I will be working to send out the webinar as well as the presentations within the next few days. And then finally, I do want to let you know of another feature. If you look at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, there is a captions button. So you should be able to turn on captions for today's webinar. So before we start, I'm going to do a little bit of background on who we are and why we are here today with you. ECAP stands for the Environmental Compliance Assistance Program. And if you take anything away today from my short little spill about ECAP, it is that we are genuinely here to help. So the program itself has two main objectives. The first is going to be helping businesses understand and comply with Kentucky's environmental requirements. And then the second is to provide free and confidential assistance to Kentucky's businesses. So ECAP actually serves as Kentucky's Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. SBEP, I'll call it an SBEP for short, they are requirements of the Clean Air Act and are primarily funded by air emission fees. So for those reasons, ECAP specializes in assisting small businesses, which can be defined as businesses fewer than 100 employees. They must be independently owned and operated, and they cannot be a major source of air emissions. And we specialize in air quality assistance with those. So one of ECAP's major duties is providing technical assistance. I mentioned we specialize in small business and air quality, but we can also offer different services as well. We can offer detailed air quality assistance to small businesses, site visits, doing potential emissions calculations. We can even develop entire applications for small businesses and help them fill out any specific forms that they might need. Something that I also think is really helpful is we can develop record keeping and reporting spreadsheets for air permit requirements. So that might include those rolling total spreadsheets. Kentucky itself has opted to make our SBEP program multimedia, whereas some states might just focus on air quality. So for those reasons, we do staff a phone and email hotline to take in requests from companies and the general public. We can provide general assistance in several water and waste topics as well. Generally, we see things like KPDES permits and hazardous waste questions. But for some areas, if we do not know the answer to your question, we can also act as your referral service. So we can get you in touch with somebody that might be able to answer your question. We can also help facilities identify if regulations may be relevant to them, and we can recommend that they review certain regulations to identify applicability for their operation. And then we also assist with new economic development projects, helping you identify potentially applicable permits. We can also help companies new to Kentucky get into meetings with different divisions in our Department for Environmental Protection all at once, rather than just having to go through that individually. So finally, we also develop educational documents for the public. This can be anything from quick one-page fact sheets on new regulations or regulation changes, to we've even created, more intense 80 to 100-page compliance documents that might cover every potential regulation a facility in a specific sector might need to be concerned with. We also hold different workshops and webinars like the one that you are here with us today. We have an annual 101 series of workshop covering basic air, water, and waste permit and regulations. And we can also do meetings with individual companies for training or assistance. So I've talked a lot about what ECAP can do. There are a few things that we do not do. So ECAP does not issue notice of violations, even if issues are seen during a site visit that we are on. ECAP does not make any sort of regulatory determination or give requirements. We make recommendations to facilities. We have no regulatory authority. So when I say we are here to help, we really are here to help. We do also not interfere with any inspector activity or anything covered in an inspection report. Our enforcement discretion, which I'm going to cover in the next slide, does not supersede any of that. And we also cannot act solely as a corrective action or a remedial measure following an inspection report or a notice of violation. We can assist a facility meet certain requirements, but we cannot be the remedial measure in itself. So I have mentioned a few times now that our services are confidential and that we do not report on potential violations outside of a few exceptions. The Department of Environmental Protection did create an enforcement discretion policy for ECAP. The important part of this is that facilities that work with ECAP are given a reasonable opportunity to correct violations before they are ever brought to regulatory agencies. And finally, we do like to share some of our accomplishments. I'm going to go ahead and list a few. We do have an average of 1,100 assistance requests per year, with 115 of those being detailed assistances. So those detailed assistances might be us working one-on-one with small businesses to develop their air permit applications or do their required reporting. 54% of follow-up survey respondents are small businesses. We've had a 96% positive rating from our respondents, with 94% of people saying that they would use ECAP again and recommend us to others. And 87% of clients make changes based on recommendations. So that is all I have today about ECAP, and I hope you could take away a little something about what we do and who we are. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the presentation to Eric Cleaver. He's actually an environmental scientist who works in the ECAP program, and he is going to cover EEC eForms.
All right, well, thank you, Shanna. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So we're going to start with the EEC eForms. It's one of the more common systems we have. I'm sure probably most of you have been using it for a while. Essentially, it's an electronic submittal for anything pretty much that's going to Department for Environmental Protection, Department for Natural Resources. So almost all of your air, waste, water forms, they're going to be located on the eForms. Now, I think the ePortal still has the whole effluent toxicity reports and the emissions inventory surveys, but the eForms is pretty much got everything. So it's something that you definitely want to look into if you haven't already. I like the electronic submittal personally. Once you get set up, it's pretty easy to use. You just have to find the right forms, and we can always help you with that. But the good thing is you get electronic verification. Once you submit, you'll get an email saying, hey, you submitted this form on this date, this time. Here's your submittal ID. Here's your transaction ID. So it kind of covers you. And it also helps to prevent some NODs, I believe, because if you don't fill out everything and attach everything, it's not going to go through. So you kind of have all your administrative stuff up front. If you do happen to get an NOD, it's going to come through an email, and you kind of just work back and forth through there. So it's a little bit quicker, speeds up the process. So I would encourage everyone to at least give the eForms a try. So for all of you who've been using eForms for a while, it used to be Kentucky Online Gateway. So this is the screen that you used to see when you logged on. So if you're logging on now, you don't want to see this anymore. IT did an update, I think it was around the end of July, that essentially takes care of this step. So instead of logging on to Kentucky Online Gateway and then launching the EEC eForm, it now takes you directly to the eForms page. So you just kind of skip this step, and we'll talk about that in the upcoming slides. So this is what you want to see now. If you had the Kentucky Online Gateway like bookmarked or something, again, you don't want to use that anymore. You can see the new URL up here at the top. You can also go into pretty much any search engine. If you type in EEC eForms and click on the first response, it's going to take you here. So just make sure when you log on, this is the screen you're seeing, not the old KOG. You don't want that anymore. This is where we're at now. This is where you want to be. We're going to talk about signing up new users, but if you're an existing KOG account, you should have got a notification to update to this eForms. If you didn't, what you'll want to do is go over to where it says please sign, drop that down. You'll hit sign in. That'll take you over. It'll use your email, be your user, will be your email. You'll have a password. You're going to want to click forgot password. They'll send you an email verification. You'll click on that. You'll update your password. You'll sign in, and you should be good to go. That should carry everything over from your KOG account, so you won't lose anything. So now we'll talk about if you're a new user, that's kind of the same step. So you've got here, you go over to the sign in drop down, except for this time you want to hit register. And I just remember if you're an existing client, sign in, go through those steps. If you're new, hit register. And you can see it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to put in your information. I don't know if all that's required or not, like middle initial, I'm not sure, but just fill out those fields and click register. Same as before, you'll get a validation email verification. You just click on that, and then that should take you back to sign in. So you'll hit sign in, and once you get signed in, there's an option to stay logged in if you want to do that. That way you won't have to go through the process again. But once you get signed in, this is where you're going to be, and we'll talk about go to the next. Okay, so we've signed in. This is what we're going to see, our eForms homepage. This is where we're going to, when we log on, we want to be here. You can see the toolbar going across the top. The main thing we're going to focus on, we'll talk about all of them, but the main one you're going to use are the dashboard and the forms. So when you click on dashboard, you can see all the little different color boxes. So we've got the blue, the green, unread messages, my incomplete eForms. We'll go through all of these. The good thing about your dashboard is, like say, any message you get will come through here. You can also sort of track your submission. You can go from like my incomplete eForm. Once you submit that, it should show up on the pending. Once they assign it, it'll show up on the my complete, and we'll talk about each of them, but it's just a good way to track your submissions. So unread messages, that's pretty much just exactly what it sounds like. So when you submit an eForm, you're going to get a verification email. You'll probably get an email when it's migrated over to Tempo, the database. So that'll fill up pretty quickly. I have quite a few on there. I guess I should go delete some of them, but any communication will come through there. Now, if you get a notice of deficiency through the eForms, that should come to the email on the form. So that should come directly to your email. This is more just a, from like the system itself, like to say we got it, it's been assigned, that kind of stuff. My incomplete eForms is going to be probably the main one we'll focus on here. So anytime you open an eForm, even if you're just looking at it, you don't put any data in it or anything, it's going to go to my incomplete eForms. And one of the main questions we get, people log on, they go to, to open a form, and they'll get an error message that says you can't access this eForm. You have one currently open. And they're like, well, I don't have anything open, but it could be something you just clicked on a couple of weeks ago or anything. So to handle that, you go back to the My Incomplete eForms on your dashboard, and the very top one, you'll click on the submittal ID. Go ahead and change that if you don't care. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, well, sorry, I thought that was a different slide. Okay, go back one. So you'll click on the submittal ID, and we'll see this in a minute, but it'll open up to the what they call the forms details page. That's going to be the form details for that, and then it'll give you a couple options on how to close out that open eForm, and we'll talk about it in a second. So this is just going to show you when you've submitted it. You should get a verification email pretty quickly. If you don't get it, you can check in here. If you submit something and then this rolls over to like a 1, pretty safe to say that it went through okay. And this is just saying essentially that it's been received by the system, and it's been migrated over to EEC. This is going to show you when it's assigned. Like, don't get confused. That doesn't mean that the actual, like, let's say you sent in a DAQ air permit application and now it's showing it's complete. That just means it's completed the system. It's been submitted, it's been uploaded to Tempo, now it's been assigned to a permit reviewer. So the permit itself hasn't been drafted, but the eForm process has been completed. So the form details, this is what we were kind of talking about before. I guess I sort of jumped the gun. I apologize. But so you go to My Incomplete eForms. Anything you open or do is going to show up in here. If you want to check on it, let's just use the example again that we're trying to close out, that we've got that error message saying that we've got a form open and we want to close it out. So we go to My Incomplete eForms. We click on the submittal ID. That'll take us to the forms details page. And you can see we have a few options here. We can continue with the eForm. We can start a new eForm using the save values, or we can delete it. So in our example that we're trying to close out that open eForm, naturally we're just going to go to the delete button, which is fine. It'll delete the eForm. It'll delete it immediately on your end. So you'll see that, I've got it deleted. I should be able to open the new eForm now. Unfortunately, the system won't reset until overnight. So if I go in at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock today and I delete an eForm and I really got to get one submitted today, then I'm not going to be able to do it, because it's not going to show up in the system as being deleted until it reboots overnight. So if you're on a time crunch, don't use that delete button. Instead, what you can do is go over to where it says continue with this eForm. You click on that, and it'll open up the eForm. You hit click to save the values for future retrieval, and that will effectively close out the eForm. So you've got a couple of options. If you got plenty of time and you don't like to have your system cluttered with all those old forms, go ahead and delete it. If you're kind of on a time crunch, just go ahead and save it. So we went through the dashboard kind of, so now we're going to try to find our form. So like I say, pretty much everything you need through air, waste, and water is going to be on the eForms now. I think there's something like 56 different eForms maybe. But like I say, the only thing I can think of is the wet and the EIS survey that's not on there currently. And some things like the stormwater, the KYR10, KYR00, the ENOIs, they can only be submitted through the eForms now. So we've clicked on our forms. That shows us a list of available eForms. You can see them all down through there. We've got the filter options. This is handy, if you want to search by like DAQ, DOW, if you would happen to know the form ID number, you can search by that. A lot of times, if you're not sure which form to use, certainly feel free to call us. That's something we can definitely help you with. If you know you need to do your air permit reporting, you tell the Division of Air Quality, click on the webpage now and go to the permit required reporting. It'll probably show you what forms to use and may even give you the form ID on the website. But if you need any help with finding the form, then please let us know, and we can definitely help you with that. So we've decided to open up, this is the DAQ field branch submittal form. And we picked this one because, as you can see, you can put a couple of different things on here. So you can put your semi-annual monitoring results on here. You can put your ACC on here. Up at the top, any required field has an asterisk. So if you forget to put something in, it's going to kick it back to you. It should be highlighted in red, if it does kick it back. What I want to mention too is not so much on this form, but I don't know if any of you have the 8700 RCRA form. Like if you have a lot of waste streams going, it's a lot of data to put in. So just make sure you save often. So if you're working on an eForm and you've done a lot, and you get a phone call and you get distracted, it'll time out after about 30 minutes. And if you haven't saved that data, it's just gone and we can't get it back. So you kind of just have to do it all over. So just make sure you save often. And when you do save, it'll save any data that you've entered, but it will not save attachments. So if you filled out this form and you upload it, your ACC, and you hit save, but when you open that back up, you're going to have to upload your ACC again. So once you get everything complete and upload it, just go ahead and submit it. But the main takeaway is just make sure you save, save often. And again, this is what we're going to see once you finish. I'm going to click to save, or you can click to submit. Again, on the click to save, that's good. Save it as much as you can, as much as you need to, but just remember those attachments are going to need to be uploaded again if you save. And that's just click to submit. So once you click that, it'll go through. Hopefully, if you get an error message, like I say, it should have something in red saying, hey, this field needs this. If it does go through, you should get a verification email really quickly, like 5 to 10 minutes, I would say. That'll give you the transaction ID, submittal ID, date and time it was submitted. So it's just another reason I like the eForms. It sort of covers you. You've got that verification saying, hey, you submitted this date and this time, and you get that submittal ID number too, which is also handy if you want to call in and say, hey, I just want to check and see where this is at. We can take that submittal ID and track it down pretty easily. Again, just about everything is on the eForms now. Like I say, I think the ENOIs are specifically eForms. I don't think they'll take them any other way. I'm not sure of a whole lot that's not eForms. I know I've said it before, but I think just the emissions inventory surveys and the wet testing I know are still on the ePortal, but I think pretty much everything now is available through eForms. So this is kind of the thing about the eForms account too is more than one individual from your company can have an eForms account. So it's an individual account. Sometimes some just check the forms, like some of the forms, especially like the DAQ permit application, those need to be signed by a responsible official. So just make sure that on the signature you get the correct person. And you can find the definition of a responsible official. Essentially, it's like for a corporation, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, anybody who can make business decisions. But it's in the regs. I think it's 401 KAR, gosh, 52 maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, 52001. That'll give you the definition of a responsible official. But just check the e-form and make sure that that could be something if the signature requirement didn't meet the reg requirement, that would be something you could get an NOD for. So go through because the signature's there, but you would probably get an NOD later saying, hey, this is not a responsible official. This is a cool feature. So let's say I'm a consultant and I'm working on a form for a company. I've got it all filled out, and now the responsible official needs to sign it. So we go back through and you can see this is on our forms detail page. So let's say I'm working on my form, I save it, I go back to my dashboard. There it is on my incomplete eForms. I can open it up to the form details page. About in the middle of the page there's going to be this assign submittal option, and that's where you can assign it to someone else. So essentially, if you just start typing in the person's name, if anybody's on the eForms now and you want to type in Shanna or whatever, you'll see it'll come up. We use this quite a bit, actually. People will call in and say, I can't figure out what's wrong with this. It says something's missing, but I can't see anything. Well, they can assign the submittal to us. We can look at it that way. Pretty much once you assign it, it's almost instantaneous that the other person can get to it. So then they can work on the eForm, sign it if they need to. It's another good thing about the update. A lot of people in the past would go on to KOG, they would make the account, but they would fail to launch the eForms. So then when the people would try to use assign submittal, they wouldn't show up, and they'd be like, well, I know I created an account, but you have to launch the eForms first. But now we don't have to worry about that because we're going directly through the eForms. But that's what that assign submittal is for, just to give it to someone else if they need to sign it or review it or whatever. The compare function is not one that really get a lot of questions about, honestly. I guess if you wanted to run one submittal ID against another, like I don't know, like for a difference report, if you submitted an ACC last year, let's say, and then this year you submitted pretty much the same thing and you got an NOD and you're like, well, what's the difference? You could sort of run it through there and see, but it'll just compare the two forms and, like I say, give you kind of a difference report. Contacts, you can put this in. There's nothing wrong with using this at all. I would encourage it, probably just myself, just to call our helpline or try to reach out to someone, even our EMP helpline. It's just sometimes these things, it should go through, it should fall into the right hands and get assigned, but you never know, and sometimes this can kind of fall through the cracks. But feel free, it's safe to use, but I would just encourage you just to give us a call. That way we can, I think it's always better to talk to a person if you can. And for us, like it says there, for minor technical issues, so we can help with pretty much, getting you transferred over to the new account, helping you sign up in the account. We can help you figure out which eForm you need. We can help you figure out like missing information, like, if you have questions about what this field is asking for, we can help you with all of that kind of stuff. For like password issues or stuff like that, that's going to have to go down to IT. When they did the switch over to the eForms, there was a few bugs with certain emails not taking the verification, like not sending it. We can't do stuff about that. So anything more technical, what we can do is we would write you a help desk ticket, and then we would send that down to OIT on your behalf, and they would have to work on that problem. But for common issues, please give us a call. Help Center is actually pretty nice. There's a frequently asked questions list on here that has a lot of the common issues. I wouldn't be surprised, if you were a new user and you were going through some things, that you could probably find some information here that might answer any questions you have or any kind of issues you're having. Always start there if you want. But again, like I say, feel free to give us a call. Sometimes it's just easier to talk with someone and, don't spend 2 or 3 hours banging your head against the wall. Just give us a call and we'll help you out. Anonymous forms are for the complaints. So every division, air, water, waste, they have a complaints coordinator. And if you want to call them and give the complaint over the phone, or if you want to call us, we can put you in touch with them. You can do it over the phone, anonymous as well, or you can use this form, submit it. It'll go to the complaints coordinator and they'll handle everything from there. Just whichever way you prefer. Commonly asked eForm questions. We kind of went over this. This is probably one of the biggest ones we get. When I open an eForm, I receive an error message that an existing eForm is already open, but I have no eForms open. How do I fix this? And that's what we talked about. You go back to your dashboard, My Incomplete Forms, you click on that submittal ID. That'll open up the form details page. And then from there, you can delete it or you can continue with it and save it, and that'll close it out. So can I update my eForms email? Can you give me access to my former coworker's eForms account? No, we can't do that. Federal regulations state that individuals have unique accounts for documentation submitted electronically for accountability and proof of who submitted the form. eForm accounts can't be changed, updated, or transferred. So we can't do that. Okay, looks like we made it through. If anybody has any questions or anything, Shanna, is there any questions?
It doesn't look like we have any questions yet, but feel free to take a couple of minutes. If you have any questions about EEC eForms, feel free to put them in the questions box and we'll try to answer a few of those. If not, we'll wait a couple of seconds, but if not, we'll go ahead and move on to EEC eSearch and learn a little bit more about that online tool.
Thank you all.
Okay, looks like we have no questions. Can anyone hear me? Yeah, good. Okay, awesome. So today I am going to be talking about EEC eSearch. Raise your hand if you've ever used this tool before. It looks like we don't have any hands raised. This is one of my favorite tools actually that we offer. So it is an online portal that's available to the public. So you don't need to have any login information at all. Anyone can access this, and you can just view any, well, some public environmental records that are linked to our database. And I use it often because it's actually more user-friendly than our own database that we use. One of the most common requests that I get are people asking about their permits. They would like a copy of a permit. Maybe they're looking for their agency interest number, things like that. And this is what the tool that you'll use to get that information. Because the only other way is to submit an open records request, which can take a week or more. So I definitely recommend checking this out and looking your facility up here. And today we're just going to go through some of the features that are available on this website. Okay, so this is the home page. Again, it's public, anyone can access, and there's a lot of different ways to search through this website, and a lot of them are repetitive. So the first one we're going to look at these quick links that are on the right side of this page that you can see. You can pay an invoice, manage a license, find license operators. It has looks like phone numbers to contact cabinet members. I definitely recommend checking this out. We're just going to go through some of the most popular ones today, though. Okay, so we're going to click on Pay Your Invoice. And here, this is where you might pay your fees. So sometimes facilities will have air emission fees. You can search through here your invoice. You can look for different programs. You can just look through air quality emissions fees and find which ones haven't been paid, stream or wetland impact fees, UST registration tank fees, anything like that. This is where you go and pay for those fees. But I don't want to confuse anyone. This is not the e-portal where you do your emissions inventory surveys. This is just where you pay those invoices. Okay, next we're going to look at manage a license. We do have a lot of people that call in asking about their operator license and their status and their training history, or maybe you're working with someone that needs a license, and this is a website where you can go and search those. Okay, yeah, and this is basically the same thing. Find a license operator. Um, so one instance, you can search if you need to do any demolition and you need to find someone that has an asbestos license, you can sort it through here. Okay, next we're going to go look at that top bar on the top of the eSearch website, search our data. And it brings up this drop down list. So there's available reports, agency interest, find the license operator, compliance, permitting activity, permit applications. So if you want to find any of these things related to your facility, this is one way to search our website for it. And we're going to go through a few of those examples. So agency interest. An agency interest number is unique to a facility or unique to a project. It'll be issued to everyone that goes through our cabinet for any type of permit. But we definitely recommend you keep track of those. That way, you can search our website a lot more easily. Or if you have any questions for someone in the cabinet, the first thing they ask is, what is your agency interest number? It's the easiest way we search for facilities in our system. But if you don't know it, you can try to type in agency interest name or county or search that way. But sometimes it might be written in our database a little bit differently. So some people do have issues finding their facility if they don't type it in exactly the way we have it in our system. Okay, and this is just an example of a facility that we pulled up and we just blocked out all the information for them. But you'll see at the top, they have their agency interest number, their name, the interest type, regulatory status, county, and their address. And then at the bottom, you're going to see activities with downloadable documents. And this is where we're going to pull copies of your active permits. Okay, so if you hit that triangle on the left side, it'll drop everything down here that you can download. And in this example, it looks like this facility has a Title V air permit, so they can download a copy of it and then a statement of basis and summary, executive summary. Um, yeah, it's a great feature, a great tool that we have available to the public to download these permits. Okay, next, there's another tab when you search our database that only looks through issued approvals. So it'll work the same way. You can sort it by any of these fields here. If you have an agency name, agency ID, that helps. Or if you just want to find issued approvals in different cities, you can do that as well. Okay, next we have pending actions and approvals. So one of the reasons why I send this out to people, we get comments all the time asking for status updates for the permits for something they sent in through eForms. And a lot of the times it'll be here. So one example I looked at today, it was a facility that submitted an air permit modification and they wanted a status update. And so I just typed it in here, their agency name, and I searched it and it said that their application was still pending review and it will give the milestone updates and the last date something happened in our database. So this is a great feature if you're looking for any updates to something you've submitted for permits. check this out. If you ever email us asking for status update, that's totally fine. We might just send you here as well so you can keep track of that. Next, under the search our data header up at the top, you can find the compliance page. And here you can type in your agency name, and what it'll pull up will be all the different compliance milestones that are for your facility. So I pulled up one on my own computer, and right now it'll say that there's an annual certification review, and it gives you the date that that was done. And then it lists inspections. This one says has waste or an investigation, and it'll provide dates for that. So if you're curious about what it will pull up for your facility, definitely check it out on this eSearch website. We do get questions all the time. Did someone in my facility submit our ACC or SAMR for our air quality permit? And so this is a great way that you can check it out on your own if you don't want to call anyone. And just to note, I have noticed sometimes our database doesn't connect with eSearch perfectly. So some things might be hidden. So if you have any questions, if you think something should show up, just give us a call and we'll have to talk to the permitting section. It's just a setting in our database that will communicate with this eSearch website. So it might be something we have to change. But it's a great resource since you don't have to sign in and it's available to the public. And again, just another way to search different facilities for permit activity. A lot of this is redundant. Just our eSearch website just gives you a lot of ways to search for the same things. And then next, delivery or deposit prohibitions. This page will just give you access to all the details about agencies that have been deemed not allowed to make deposits or receive deliveries. And then at the top, if you click down on services, you'll have options to pay your invoice, manage a license. Again, all of this we've seen before, just another way to search our website. And then lastly, if you go to the help, there's an FAQ, and a glossary, and a contact us feature. I know this is a lot shorter than the eForms. There's not much to it, but definitely I recommend trying it out. Look up your facility, see what you can see on there. You can save the tab, and everything will always be available for you. And if anyone has any questions, just let us know.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Allison. So that was the end of our EEC eSearch presentation. We will go ahead and ask if anybody has any questions. Feel free to put those in the chat or the questions box. I'll give that a few minutes just so people can type those in. But with that being said, we have mentioned our hotline a few different times. So if you have any questions that you might not even think of now, feel free to either give us a call or send us an email. This hotline goes directly to either Allison or Eric, so they might be one of the people that answers your question or answers the phone. Like I said, if you can't think of anything now, feel free to note down this phone number and this email, and we are there to help if you ever do have any questions, not only about EEC, eForms, or eSearch. It could be anything in general. Let's see, I'm still not seeing any questions in our chat. So with that being said, we might end a little bit early today. Let's go ahead and move on. Just a little bit of post-webinar housekeeping. First things first, an event survey will be made available directly after the webinar. It'll actually pop up on GoToWebinar. We just ask that you provide your feedback. And we also ask that if you have any ideas on topics for future events, please let us know. If you have, any questions that, you constantly are thinking of and you're like, what, a webinar might be really nice for that, let us know and we might use your idea and create a new webinar. The webinar recording and presentations will also be made available to all registrants and sent to the email that you registered with within the next few days. So just give me a little bit of time to get that together, and I will send that to everyone who has attended. I also plan on sending out a few additional videos and tools regarding EEC, EEC or eForms, sorry. So we do have a few walkthrough videos regarding the eForms app that I'm going to send out as well. And then finally, I do want to let you know of some upcoming events that we will be having. All of these events are going to be listed on our website. It's going to be the Environmental Compliance Assistance Program page. We have an ECAP RECAP webinar every month. So next month, we are going to have a speaker talking about exploring ambient air monitoring in Kentucky. And then in October, our speaker is going to be a basin coordinator, and they're going to talk about protecting Kentucky's water. And then, as I mentioned in the introduction, we have an Air 101, Water 101, and Waste 101 series coming up. This one will be located in Moorhead, Kentucky. And again, that's just going to be an introduction to permitting and compliance workshop for air, water, and waste. And we would love for you to attend any of those. So with that being said, and I still don't see any questions, I'm sure to check, we are going to go ahead and end today. Like I said, if you have any questions ever, I'll go back to the slide so you can see that phone number in the email. If you have any questions ever, feel free to give us a call or send us an email, and we are happy to help. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you all.